are back on the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast, episode 2 of Masters Week. I've got golf on in the background at the most beautiful venue in the world right now. Dave, do you have the same going on in your house?
I did until like 20 minutes ago while I was finishing the prep for this show. I played on an old Xbox on a TV in my office, and it shuts off for inactivity, and it does not consider watching the Masters an active event. So it has turned off automatically. And because we were recording this anyway, it's probably better, or else it would be probably lagging for me with my internet. So for this brief repeat, I do not have the Masters on, but I have since about 7:30 this morning. It's been great. Sweating some first round leader stuff. I know you are. I've got a few in play. I had a hilarious one on Jose Maria Olazabal. He started out -2 through like 3, and he was the bottom guy for first round leader. I said, screw it, put it on there. And he was holding on for like 6-7 holes, and then bogey, double bogey. But the Masters is just too fun. It bites everybody, and sometimes the unexpected happens. It's just awesome. I love this time. Yeah.
One of my favorite traditions is waking up at like 7:30 a.m. Masters already underway and seeing what no name is like 2 under through 2 that's going to inevitably fall apart and end up 4 over. Yeah, I'm currently holding a 60-1 Sam Burns first round leader ticket as he fends off both Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler, who are on furious hot streaks at the moment. So we'll see if I'm smiling at the end of this episode. Also, I've been texting a bunch of my friends about how difficult the Masters is to stream. You need like 7 different streaming services now to watch this tournament. Didn't know you needed an Xbox in the year of our Lord 2026 to watch the Masters, Dave.
This TV is very not a smart TV. It's like a 19-inch flat screen Insignia that doesn't do anything. So I've got my old guy. This Xbox is almost as old as I am. That's not true, but it's an old one. I've had the dual screens going on. I had it on there, and then also on my computer, Aiming corner on computer, featured holes on the TV. I need one more, honestly.
Just
prop the phone up or something.
Never enough screens when the game is at Augusta, Dave, and just hope you don't get the red ring of death before the tournament ends on Sunday. All right, we actually aren't going to talk much more Masters. That's why I had to get my fix in at the top of the show today. But there's plenty of sports on tonight on Thursday. That's what this show will be for most of the episode. We've got NBA, MLB, and NHL slates all to tend to before this episode ends. But first, we're going to do some NBA futures discussion, the final games of the regular season this weekend, and then it is playoff time. We briefly discussed NBA futures way back when this was largely an NFL show, and you threw out the Celtics, which turned out to be a pretty amazing bet back then, Dave, but we haven't discussed this since, and now we have a lot more data to work with, so let's take a look at where the Dimers model sees things going for the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, there's not like a ton that I think is something you got to jump on, kind of that stands out as vastly incorrect. There is one thing that kind of piques my curiosity, which we'll get to, and I'll ask you about. And I like situationally, it's good that which team it is, because you'll have some, I think, additional insight for us here. But you can basically break these down into what I think are 4 tiers of contenders, and then obviously the teams that, the no chances really. And even within a tier of their own, you got the Thunder here. They keep climbing. They're up from like the mid 30% range, as close to fair odds now, though, as they have been all year, with our model's probability going up. Would be fair, a little closer to like 145. Plus 130 is not so bad when you're considering that. You get very rarely going to get a fair price on the favorite to win the championship, especially a team as dominant as OKC. But sitting in the tier of their own, of course. And then you move down, you got the Spurs and Celtics pretty much in the second tier here, virtually identical probabilities. Both of them are just about fair odds. Celtics like the slimmest of edges. I think it's like plus 580 fair odds right here. Spurs probably just slightly under, but pretty much the same amount discrepancy on either side of fair for each team. I don't think it's a bad time to get invested in either of them if you're not backing the Thunder. I guess with the Celtics, you maybe have a slightly better out because they don't have to run into the Thunder potentially in the Western Conference Finals. And they certainly seem like they're the talent in the East to beat. But, you kind of have to stomach not getting the prices that these teams were at earlier this season, especially the Celtics. They were like 60-1, 70-1, depending where they were or what book you were looking at. But both of these teams have shown they certainly can win. And if there was a top contender, I guess, to take, it would be either of them. You're getting a pretty decent fair price. Surprisingly so, throughout some of these teams in the third tier as well, also getting a little value. I'd say the third tier is probably the Nuggets, the Cavs, the Knicks, and then the Pistons here. Nuggets get a little edge, would be fair about plus 900. Knicks get a very slight edge here, would be fair about plus 1850. Nuggets are on a decent little roll here. Both these teams have clinched their spots, so not really much to play for down the stretch with these last few games. Nuggets, built a little differently, but got the pedigree of being here before, winning recently, still retaining most of the top talent from that team. Some of those guys getting better as well. And then you have the long shots. Well, I guess before we get to that, I'll ask you, Greg. A bit surprised to see the Pistons down here for the model, who I believe was a little higher on them earlier this season. Cade's back. No longer the injury concerns there. Do you think they are kind of fairly down here? Would you maybe put them higher up? I mean, this is the top seed in the East.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been the best team in the East. I don't think you get the 1 seed without really getting to that point, or without that being true. Maybe they've been the healthiest or most fortunate team, but obviously had the Cade injury kind of throw things off in the last couple of weeks. But look, they got 2 All-Stars. They have an emerging superstar center in Duran, who is way better than he was a year ago. And I think Cade Cunningham is a guy you'd like to believe can win you multiple playoff series at this point in his career. It hasn't happened yet, right? Like they're very much still sort of the new team on the block, and the Oklahoma City Thunder are still very much in their emerging tier territory as well in their life cycle, right? They're not a veteran group. So it's hard to talk yourself into anybody outside of Oklahoma City that has a real chance of beating them in 7 games. So even if I think they're a little bit undervalued here, I can't say that I would fire on the Pistons 25-1, but I do wonder if that's just the Cade injury possibly impacting the way the model has viewed this team, because you're right, they were viewed more favorably a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, though. I mean, they are the top seed, so they're going to get the, one of the play-in teams. Odds probably not too affected by what happens in that series, I would imagine. They're going to be playing one of these teams down here that has a 0 or virtually no % chance to win. And then while we're down here, I mean, these odds for the Lakers, like, I guess Luka is done, right? They've been coy about it, and they're not saying exactly how long he's going to be out for. Obviously ruled him out for the rest of the regular season, which wasn't much longer. But he's like in Europe getting treatment. The books are pricing him anywhere between 600-1 and 1,000-1. He must be done, right? I mean, there's just no possible way that they would be out here if Luka would be on track to return by the second round or something, right?
Yeah, that has to be the case. Usually when it feels that fishy, the odds makers are more aware of what's happening than we are. So, I can't say as much as I'd love to talk myself into a LeBron James Twilight legacy run. Don't think I'll be investing in that. I want to ask you about this team. I think you nailed it, sort of surveying the tiers here. Outside of Oklahoma City, or even including Oklahoma City, it feels like everything at the top of the board here is fairly priced. And if you want to talk yourself into a case, go ahead and fire at it. If you don't either way. But there's no major terrible values. There's no major great values. For me,
surprising.
Personal preference here, the only thing that is non-Oklahoma City that I can talk myself into is it Victor Wembanyama's time to take over this league? And I think we all know that's coming at some point, whether it's this year, whether it's 3 years down the line, who knows? Oklahoma City could certainly go head to head and beat him in 7 games, but he's had success against Oklahoma City as well. When you think back to this series that has become a real rivalry here, do I wish that they flip-flopped with the Celtics? Maybe you got them 6-1. Yes. I do find it interesting that the model has basically the Spurs and Celtics at identical probabilities, and yet you actually get the Celtics at slightly better odds. But maybe that's because they're in the East and they're more likely to come out of that conference. For me, Wemby is the guy, though. Like, I could see the Spurs winning it all this year and beating Oklahoma City in 7 games, and I might take it at plus 550.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. You picked it, pulled the idea right out of my head. If I was picking a single team here that I actually believe can win, a 7-game series against the best that I'm not already invested in, like the Celtics, it'd be the Spurs. I could see them being preseason favorites next year. Probably wouldn't if the Thunder win back to back. They're just going to be preseason favorites no matter what. But it might be a lot closer, as far as who's at the top of the board, depending how far they get, or even just as is now. Seems like the trend. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I am surprised to see so many fair odds around here. It's just kind of an interesting case of not getting shortchanged. And if you have a team that you like, fire away, because you're not getting robbed on the price really at all.
Yeah. Wonder how much of that is truly just Oklahoma City being such a sizable favorite as well. But hey, weird things happen in the playoffs. You never know. We've seen big favorites just disappear at strange times before. All right, I'm excited for the NBA playoffs. We'll have more coverage on this very program as the playoffs start to roll onward. But let's turn next to just one of our last regular season NBA slates on Thursday night. We've got 6 games tonight. Some of these are absolutely meaningless. A couple of these are pretty big for motivation, with teams like the Raptors and the Sixers, who theoretically could jump each other on the playoff seeding list here. So I guess maybe we should start there, Dave. Let's survey the motivation here. Who do you have your eye on tonight?
Yeah, I think that's huge when you're betting the NBA at this point. It has been for weeks, honestly, now. But if I'm looking through the projections before the show, trying to do research, and then you got to go check the daily lineups, projected lineups, and all that. And it is out, day to day, questionable throughout so many of these lineups. The Celtics had 4 of 5 who were listed at questionable. Then Jaylen Brown got ruled out. 2 of them are questionable now. And that's in a game against the Knicks where they're effectively locked into their seating. I think they could trade the 2 and the 3. Nothing else changes for them. Then you have, you got the Bulls, Wizards, Pacers, Nets teams playing for absolutely nothing. Lakers, Warriors basically playing for nothing. And then, like I said, or you mentioned, the Sixers and the Raptors are only separated by about a game and a half across the Eastern Conference standings, and could fall. The Sixers could climb out of the play-in. The Raptors could fall into the play-in, which does have ramifications. If you fall into the top of the play-in, you still only got to play the 1 game if you win, but it's an extra game and it's single elimination. So if you don't, or double elimination for the top seed, but it's important to not get that if you can. Getting a top 6 seed is paramount. So I would expect the Raptors and the Sixers to be playing pretty hard. I think it's interesting that we have the Rockets. I believe there's an edge here on the Rockets to cover this spread. No, not anymore. Change spread has moved, and you can get per Calci odds anyway, plus money at plus 4.5, which is pretty dang good at 51%. But Rockets money line almost 70% seems pretty confident, and that's with a full strength Sixers team. So kind of curious case there, because the Rockets are pretty much solidified into their spot, don't have a ton to play for. But the Raptors probably more motivated than anyone to not fall out of that 6th seed. So should be playing the Heat pretty strongly. For that reason, I put a Scotty Barnes double-double on watch in an article on site. We've got him projected pretty close. He ripped off 5 or 6 in a row, all by way of assists too, which is not usually his upside recently. And the Heat are bottom 5 in points and assists. So that's certainly at least one thing to look at tonight. Probably the most motivated team playing would be Toronto. But yeah, prop wise, a few things on the on my radar. Let's go into the projections. Similar angle that we looked at a few nights ago with 3-point shooters, and at least one of them will be featured here again. But some of the worst teams lately, at least as far as allowing high volume 3-point attempts, are playing tonight. That would be the Celtics, the Bulls, and the 76ers, all bottom 5 over their last 15 games in terms of attempts. Celtics might be slightly an outlier. They are ranked 11th in terms of 3-point percentage, but volume is very important. You can't make a lot of threes if you don't take a lot of threes. And I'll just take a quick look at the top projected guy in those matchups. So for the Celtics, it's OG Anunoby at 2.6 here. He's got 4+ in 3 straight games. Pretty good volume here. 6+ attempts in all of those. 4+ in 5 of his last 7 as well. Shooting more volume right now than he has in this entire stretch. Celtics, I kind of have something else about this, but they are not playing Jaylen Brown tonight. Derek White is questionable. I think Keita is questionable. Wouldn't surprise me if Jason Tatum doesn't really play much in this game, since their motivation here has got to just be keep this roster healthy, particularly Jason Tatum, who's still in his first month from injury return. So might be an even weaker defense from them, defensive effort from them than normal. And OG Anunoby's had some pretty good volume lately. Top projected guy for the Knicks, although not much higher over Jalen Brunson or Deuce McBride. I think Deuce McBride's been pretty cold lately, though. I did not see very many games with 2 or more threes in his last 10 or so. Then against the Sixers, guy that we talked about last week and did come through, I believe, in that game, Reed Shepherd pops up again, top guy here against Philly. Again, only slightly over Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith, but 2.6. He's had really good volume, averaging over 8 attempts per game since the start of March. Just really, really chucking up the threes, really accurate. Much more improved role, I suppose, for them down the stretch. And gets a great matchup here against the Sixers, who are bottom 5 against 3-point attempts and accuracy over their last 5 games. And then not often we're backing a Wizards guy here, but you get the Bulls, whose 3-point defense is pretty poor. And we've got Bub Carrington as the top guy for Washington at 2.5 projected threes. He went just 2 for 8 versus the Bulls the other night, but he's got 3+ in 4 of his last 10 games. Is the top projected for Washington. Someone should find success versus the Bulls tonight, who have 2 healthy players. The guys were chucking up 3-pointers against them the game before. And most teams have found success shooting against Chicago from beyond the arc. This is a roster that is absolutely also eviscerated by injuries. Almost everybody who would normally be shooting the threes is not there. It just kind of sort of lines up. You have 2 really bad teams playing for nothing. Younger players who trying to shoot the shot. So top projected guys against the worst 3-point defenses tonight. You take them all for 3+, you get plus 686. Little parlay on FanDuel. I'll probably take a look at who might be a good ladder play. If I'm picking one of those, it's probably Reed Shepherd, just because of the volume and the success that he has had lately.
I like it. Reed Shepherd, fun player, defensive liability, very entertaining offensive player. Usually good for player props on either end of the matchup at that point. But like the Bub shout as well, always fun to target anyone playing the Bulls, especially in the current iteration of the Bulls. Bulls front office is under fire right now with a bunch of changes. That organization's a mess. So I like that angle. What else you got for us here outside of the threes angles?
Just this matchup in general is just kind of a fun one. I think I don't really know exactly how the best way to attack it is, but someone for the Bulls has to be going off. It was Patrick Reed at one point briefly on Tuesday was in the lead for King of the Court. Would have returned a $1 million bonus bet. There was one person, unless the DraftKings app wasn't accurately showing the breakdown of the payouts. One person had Patrick Williams. Did I say Patrick Reed? It's the Masters.
It's the Masters.
Patrick Williams as King of the Court would have been quite the performance. But he still had a really good game. 2 guys off the bench for the Wizards, for the Bulls, scored 20+ points against them. Colin Sexton's our top projected guy here. 20.6 points, 3.4 boards, 4.8 assists. 2.1 threes, actually slightly down. I think he was around 2.5 earlier. You can't really get lines on the bench guys like Patrick Williams and Rob Dillingham, who went off, but they both hit 4+ threes. The Bulls chucked up 45 attempts in that game. Probably going to see something similar in this one. Colin Sexton is our top projected guy for them. Obviously not by a ton. Actually, no, it's Yabusele now. Actually, so maybe he's worth a look, at least as far as projections. Volume wise, more favorable trends with Colin Sexton. He did go 1 for 8 in the last game, but he's been better than that lately. 3+ in 5 of his last 7, 5+ twice. Might be a small little ladder there, but maybe play this live, see how it goes. It's really hard to find lines on these bench guys, but based on how that last game went, how these two teams have been trending lately, somebody for the Bulls is going to do something ridiculous tonight.
Yep, that seems normal. That seems like an every night possibility at this point with Chicago. All right, what about Celtics Knicks for us? Jaylen Brown is out tonight. I guess that means Jason Tatum could be in for a big night, but correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't think the Celtics have really anything to play for. They're going to be the 2 or the 3 seed. Maybe they want the 2 seed, and that gets you going, but I would think they just want to stay healthy more than anything tonight. Does that change the way you're going to play this game?
Yeah, no, exactly like I was saying earlier. Jaylen Brown was our top projected guy. He caught my eye earlier because we had him at like 29.8. He was plus 200 for 30 points on FanDuel. So I was looking at that. He was listed as questionable, though, with like right ankle tendonitis or something. And I was like, that sounds like something that is going to keep somebody out of a game when it's a meaningless game down the stretch. So you got Tatum here, 26.4, 9.9 rebounds. Obviously, a lot of upside there. Top projected 3-point shooter in this game. Certainly possible he plays a full game and does ridiculous things tonight as the top scorer or top projected guy for the Celtics. But it's just speculation. But I mean, it doesn't really make a lot of sense that you would put a lot of mileage on Jason Tatum in a meaningless game down the stretch here with, his still fairly recent return from injury. So it's possible that you get the Peyton Pritchard. Derek White's questionable too, so maybe Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser nights tonight. Sam Hauser's decent 3-point projection here for being a bench guy, only projected for 9.8 points, is projected for 2.7 threes. It's like literally all of his points basically expected to come from the 3-pointer. Kind of a cool little correlation there. Something to look at. If you can get the line, sometimes these guys, and down the stretch in the NBA, it's really hard to find these types of lines. A lot easier a few years ago. Sportsbooks realized that bettors were getting pretty good at exploiting bench lines, and it's a lot harder to get stuff outside starters or guys who aren't at least projected to play, 28, 30 plus minutes. So maybe monitor these projections a little closer to see if Derek White gets ruled out. Maybe even Jason Tatum. They might not officially rule him out, play him just light minutes, but something to look at as we get closer to game time. Wouldn't surprise me to see Peyton Pritchard or Sam Hauser have a nice 3-point night. A lot of threes tonight. That's kind of all I got in my mind.
Hey, I like it. You want to spray from outside tonight, Dave? I'm perfectly okay to do that alongside you. I don't think I would touch Tatum. I don't think I would touch any of the Celtics' primary options. I like the Sam Hauser shout based on what I see from our projections tonight. So, all right, good luck to you, NBA regular season bettors. Playoffs around the corner. We'll have plenty more for you once the games get real meaningful very soon. Next, let's turn to the MLB card for Thursday night. We've got 3 night games, and you are going to give us some hitter props for each of these, beginning with the Mets and the D-backs.
Yeah, sort of hitter props for each of these. The Rockies Padres was more of a collective Rockies lineup angle, but for the most part, we'll just look at a couple hitters that stand out. I'll pull up. I'll just pull up the hitter projections rather. I was going to say I'll pull up the game predictions, but for baseball, it's not quite as expansive there. So we'll pull up Mets and D-backs first because there's a pretty cool angle in this one, I think, if you do a little bit of line reading from the model, combining the multiple tools on site. I don't know if we're going to see any home runs in this one. It's low 40s in New York tonight. Odds are all north of about plus 550, which should tell you something that even the books don't think there's going to be much slugging going on. Obviously possible. Could be a sneaky play in there, but there should still be some good offense. Mets lineup has been hitting pretty well. And they've got a potentially exploitable matchup here against Arizona's Eduardo Rodriguez. He's been pretty good so far this year. He hasn't given up an earned run in 2 starts yet, but our model does project him with a 51.1% probability to go over 2.5, which is notable because he's not given up any, and we're projecting him for almost 3+. So I was looking at the top RBI probabilities when I was writing up an article earlier, and it's all pretty tight here for the Mets. They've all got pretty similar contributions from the guys at the top of the order as well. About 5 or 6 RBIs for pretty much this whole stretch of guys here. But it's Mark Vientos who mostly catches my eye. He's got an RBI in 5 of his last 6. All 5 of his have come in the past week. He's hitting 370 early on this season, and he's dominating lefties. It's a small sample size, but he's got 5 hits and 1 home run in 8 at-bats against left-handed pitchers. Top overall RBI probability tied here with Francisco Alvarez, 28.9%. Likely will hit 5th in the lineup facing a lefty, which is right behind the Mets on base percentage leader, Luis Robert. Add in the Diamondbacks bullpen ERA of 5.77 so far this season. Vientos gets pretty good spot to stay hot, drive home another run, even if they don't get it off of Erod. Other guys I think you could look at, Bo Bichette. He's our top guy for a hit, top for 2+ hits, and been pretty much automatic in this lineup. Their best hitter, basically. Most likely for a 2+ right behind him, Francisco Lindor. Both of those guys would be plus money for 2+ bases. Obviously, Erod has been pretty good, but the model projects some overs for him today. Arizona bullpen gives us some upside. I like Vientos as a straight RBI play. I've got him in a little triple sport parlay that I put on site. But I think you can maybe play a nice little kind of lineup SGP of Bo Bichette, Lindor, and Vientos here to have some nice production. Maybe an RBI for Vientos, 2+ bases for the other 2 guys. Certainly in play tonight with the weak Arizona bullpen and our model basically on the Erod fade train.
I am all aboard the Erod train. This situationally reminds me of something I just watched with my favorite baseball team, the Tigers, just last night. Framber Valdez, our big offseason acquisition through 2 starts, was lights out. 1 earned run in 12 innings pitched. He was just dominant. You're like, this guy can't be touched. He came in and got rocked, gave up 6 earned in the first inning of his 3rd start. I feel like it's only a matter of time. Very small sample size, of course. Erod's a great pitcher, but when you got a really, really hot start, sometimes those are the best guys to fade. If the model is sort of inclining us to believe tonight could be the night against a pretty loaded Mets lineup, I'm all aboard the fade train for that one. Okay, you want to go to Royals White Sox next? What do you got there?
Yeah, this is the game. If you're looking at a singular game for home runs, probably this one for me. With the caveat that Kauffman Stadium's not the best park for home runs. It's gotten a little better with some of the offseason renovations they did. They brought the fences in about 10 feet or something like that. Hasn't totally resulted in a barrage of home runs yet. That is a league-wide thing we're seeing. Saw a few things today from some really good baseball minds out there, on social and stuff. Ballpark Pal had a really good little insight onto what's going on with the balls and home runs. And general consensus seems to be that it's more pitcher tendency related, trying not to throw the balls that are going to get hit, acknowledging that every start of the season is different. It's been very cold everywhere, and things should change at some point, particularly when we get into the warmer weather. But it is a league-wide thing with home runs just not flying. I think teams are averaging less than 1 per game, which is like decade level lows. So should come around, obviously. But for now, we're trying to navigate that by picking the best matchups. And in this one, I think you've got pretty much the best weather in our favor. Could be some rain later in the game, possibly leading to a delay in the later innings, but it shouldn't be a problem earlier on. Temperatures in the mid to high 70s. So little bit of moderate wind blowing out, according to the forecast. So things should line up pretty well here. Anyway, let's look at Bobby Witt first. His home run probability is not very high, right here around 12%. Facing the White Sox, Anthony Kay, who is projected to give up the most earned runs today, about 2.6. Career ERA of 5.44. Before this season, hadn't pitched in the majors since 2023. Given up a home run in each of his 2 starts this year. His really only redeeming quality is a pretty high percentile for a ground ball rate, or percentage at 73, 73rd percentile ground ball percentage. So he doesn't always give up the fly ball, but still has a home run in each of his first 2 starts. But he is also bottom 3rd in exit velocity, barrels, hard hit ball. So all factors that contribute towards hitting home runs. Righties have the advantage versus him as far as matchup, and Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez were the top probabilities here as far as right-handed hitters are concerned. Witt's still looking for his first home run of the season. Salvy's got 2. Salvy's only hitting like 154. Bobby Witt's not raking, but even if you got a little bit of power, it's kind of hard for me to get behind a guy who, with his average is not getting a hit in every game, hitting less than a hit per game. So just kind of concerning there, I guess. You're welcome to take Salvy if you want. But, for a moderate, very nominal probability difference, these were even closer. It was about 0.1% difference earlier. I would just lean towards the better hitter, which is Bobby Witt, even though he hasn't quite been getting the power underneath it this year. He also hits K's primary pitch mix a little bit better. Fair odds would be around plus 700 for him, so you're not going to get any value on him. But the situation sets up pretty well for Bobby Witt. He should be getting home runs sooner than later. He's a very, very good hitter and should have a good matchup tonight with the White Sox. And then on the other side, he's our top probability in this game, Munetaka Murakami. He's got 4 home runs through his first about 10 or 11 games. Not hitting super, super well outside of that, like 205, but he's slugging pretty well. And he's getting a pretty decent matchup here with Seth Lugo for the Royals. Career worst 27 home runs given up by Seth Lugo last year. Worsening trend his continuing a trend of his past 3 seasons, all having his worst home run total. He used to only be like a single digit home run guy. He's given up, I think 16, 17, and 27, or 16, 19, and 27 over his past 3 years. Got a bit of an advantage for lefties against him over the past several seasons in almost the same number of at-bats. He's given up 40 home runs versus lefties compared to 21 versus righties. And you got a pair of lefties here at the top of the board in Murakami and Montgomery. Hasn't given up a home run yet this season. Been a little lucky according to StatCast. 3 of the balls he's hit, big fly balls, would be a home run in a third of parks. So getting a little bit lucky with where they're being hit. His primary pitch mix is curveballs, 4-seamer, and then he mixes like a sinker, cutter, changeup, about the same amount. And Murakami's got probably the better batted ball profile this year. Montgomery hit those pitches really well last year, but he doesn't have much like fly ball pop so far this season. Murakami is like 90th percentile in barrels. He's hitting the ball really hard. Got 4 home runs in his rookie season. So lines up pretty well for him tonight. I played both of them, little 2-legger, Murakami and Bobby Witt. I think those are the best guys in this particular game. Caveat being, you're not really getting anything close to fair odds here. Murakami, his odds went down a little bit from this morning when I published an article on this. And for both of them, you want between like plus 600 and plus 700. If you got a boost and you can make one of them an edge play, probably a pretty good straight bet to make though.
Yep. Yeah. I love Murakami. He came out the gates on fire in that Milwaukee series. Yeah. Dinger, dinger, dinger. And then it's been quiet week or so since, but I believe in the pop there. But you're right. Odds are not exactly where you want them to be with some of these guys, especially given the Lugo matchup tonight. But hey, that's what happened. All right. How about Padres Rockies, the third game of the evening? What do you see here?
Frankly, I don't see very much hitter-wise. Just not like the most exploitable pitching matchups. Not massive edges, at least on either team side here. The over looks pretty decent. Actually, 56.7% 4.7% edge over 7.5. Two lineups that, do have good hitters and home run pop in them. Just not the best pitching matchups, I guess. Did see this though. Thought it was worth calling out. We got an edge on Randy Vasquez over 2.5 earned runs, just over 51% here, but pretty good plus 133 odds. He's been really good so far. But the Rockies got a top 6 offense versus right-handed pitchers so far. Scored 4+ in 4 straight games. So this is pretty solid value with a few trends to back it up without having to invest in any one particular hitter. But a little bit, I think, pretty mild temperatures as far as anything is concerned, or weather in general. In San Diego, nothing particularly good or bad as far as home runs are concerned. Just not like the pitching matchups that you drool over or anything. But there's some pretty good value here on this particular prop with some pretty good trends for the Colorado Rockies offense, believe it or not.
Love it. Okay, wait a second. Keep this screen up because I'm currently doing one of my absolute favorite things to do, Dave. We're going to look at a little reverse correlation parlay. All right. Randy Vasquez, under 4.5 hits allowed, over 2.5 earned runs allowed, 9-1 at DraftKings Sportsbook.
It's pretty good. All you need is a walk, a hit, and a dinger.
Yeah,
how about out of there?
Walk, boom. There you go.
There you
Walk
go.
off 9-1. But no, that's interesting. I feel like this was a nice, even though it was a small slate tonight, like you kind of just showcased the perfect way to use dimers and all of the data that this model has to offer every single night, right? You can look into a game and not really know where you're looking, or you can have an idea of what you want to bet and just fact check it by the model. But, we just found some props that show significant edges in other games. This one, it's like, I don't really know where to go. Let's see what the model says. Okay, there's some value looking at Randy Vasquez, a couple different ways you could bet it. And I love to find things, even if it is sort of the reverse correlation, like I just discussed. Like if you get plus money, significant edge in a couple different areas, sometimes Dimers has the game script, man. I've seen it happen before. And you can thread the needle and hit some of these longer tickets. So I'm going to throw a little, maybe half a unit on that 9-1 reverse correlation Randy Vasquez tonight. We'll see if it comes to fruition.
You can get extra crazy and try to nail down one of the guys who gets an RBI. But that's the thing, though, right? You try to script it. Obviously, you're incorporating a ton more risk that way. But if you can find the things that work in tandem with one another, one way or the other.
Yep. All right. And try Dimers Pro for us. 3-day free trial. Get it only on the app. If you like it, you'll want it long term. And we've got a code for you then. You can reach out to Dave and he'll help you get set up with Dimers Pro. All right. Last for Thursday, we're looking at the NHL slate tonight, which is enormous. This isn't like the MLB slate where we're picking and choosing between 3 games. 14 hockey games tonight. Yeah. Damn near every single team in the league is in action. So narrow it down for us, Dave. How do we find gold on a slate this big?
It can be tough without even diving in. The first things I look for are the most exploitable defenses, games where maybe the model has a pretty close, if it's exploitable defense on both sides, maybe has a pretty close prediction suggesting, back and forth offense. Look for game. If you're looking for goals, look for games that the model projects the over, things like that. And then, of course, starting with the props, which is pretty much what we're going to do here, and looking for at least 1 or 2 players that stand out from there. Like we were just talking about, maybe finding another prop that correlates sort of game script wise, tying these things together. But right off the rip here, got to look at Macklin Celebrini in Sharks Ducks. 2 of the worst defenses in the NHL playing. Both playing pretty hard for their playoff spots right now as well. Sharks could pick up 2 points on the Ducks in their same division with a regulation win tonight. I would expect both these teams to be playing pretty hard, but they give up a lot of goals. We got an edge here on Macklin Celebrini. Pretty much you don't have to look. You don't need to convince me very hard to look elsewhere. The kid is a stud. He's got over 40 goals this season, 7 in his last 7 games, pair of games with 2+ in that span. I don't even hate him for a goals ladder, 1+, 2+, little sprinkle on the hat trick. He has been excellent. Came back from the Olympics, still excellent. Gets a great matchup tonight. Kid should be shooting pucks. Mackin Celebrini, love him for a goal. 42.6% probability. Get yourself a nice little edge there. Did not find here. Let's see. We could filter by game. I did not find any straight up value earlier in this particular game, but the matchup is good and at least demands attention. Okay, so it's mostly on the other side, which makes sense because the matchup is pretty lopsided here. But you can't get an edge now on Quinton Byfield to score a goal, which isn't so bad. He's only got 20 goals this season, 7 of them in his past 10 games. So he's putting it together now. Over the course of the season, not been a massive contributor, I suppose, but putting it all together right now is Quinton Byfield. But if you go into this game and look at the just goal scorer probabilities themselves, you'll see Artemi Panarin and Adrian Kempe at almost identical probabilities here. Getting the Canucks, who give up the most goals in the NHL, 4+ allowed in 8 of their last 10. Even in the only game they won in that stretch, they gave up 6 goals. 5+ in 6 of those games. Just a great target here if you are looking for goals. Sometimes it's not the guys you think, and it's the deeper cut guys. So you could also dig in and try to find some lower probabilities that might break through. But you saw in the edges, only Quinton Byfield from the Kings gets one. So anybody deep down is probably not fairly priced. Kempe's on a little heater of these two, 6 goals in his last 5 games. He's also got a pair of games with 2+ goals in that stretch, just like Celebrini. So I'd probably lean Kempe if you're just going for probability. If you want the edge, Byfield has the value. And against a bad defense, they very well could both score. Wouldn't be a bad little 2-legger if you were so inclined. But that's the 2 guys that I would be looking at in this game. Kempe for the probability, for the trend, and Quinton Byfield's got the edge and is also scoring more lately than he ever has this season. And then one more game, another one where there wasn't an edge as far as a goal scorer is concerned early on, but we can check and see if that has changed by filtering our games. Couple on these longer probabilities here for the Avalanche. Not saying you shouldn't play these guys, but they are definitely long shots. Ross Colton, for example, 9 goals this season. I think he's got 2 since February began. Obviously, we had the Olympics break and whatnot, but these are guys who just don't score a lot. The model is telling you that they are mispriced, but it's also telling you their probabilities are very low. 9% or 9 goals this season would not even be 20% rate for Colton. So just something to consider. However, if you go into the probabilities, that's where I like to look at, see who's leading the way. Look at the discrepancy between one player and the other. I mean, you can see a massive favorite on the Avalanche here as far as goal scorer probabilities. Shouldn't be surprising. The Kings are like bottom 7 this season. The Avalanche are the top offense in the NHL. Flames given up 3+ in 5 straight, 4+ in 3 of those games. Just not a very good defense. But this discrepancy is huge. I mean, 17% for Martin Nikas over anybody on the Flames. 3% higher than even Nathan MacKinnon, who's -135 in this game, compared to Nikas, who's +135 in this game. So Nikas, who's on a pretty solid roll here, scoring as well. 6 in his last 10, just here around 43%. And when you compare the 2 probabilities between MacKinnon and Nikas and their odds being literally the opposite of one another, makes it pretty clear to me that Nikas is the guy you should play here, straight or in the parlay. And if you play a little parlay, you can get Nikas, Celebrini, and Kempe for a little +1250. And all 3 of those guys have 6 or 7 goals in their last 10 games. So pretty good heaters, good matchups, solid Dimers model probabilities, all 40% or higher. I guess just slightly under for Kempe. He was like 39.4, 39.5. But yeah, pretty good, all aligned, all 3 of them with the good matchup, good probability, good trend. Don't really need much more to convince me for 3 guys like that.
12.5 to 1, 3 hot sticks. Lock it in, Dave. I love it. All right. Thank you for the NHL card for us tonight. Let's close the show, as always, with what else is on Dimers this week.
Let's see. We got Premier League coming back this weekend after a little international break. We're hitting the home stretch there, rolling right into World Cup soccer this summer. So if you are a Premier League person looking for value, dive in while the matches are still up. MLS is rolling along. That will be going all summer long till we take a break for the World Cup. Some edges up there for now, I can tell you. Got some pretty nice, I'll pull them up real quick while we're just chatting about it. But usually some pretty strong probabilities with some good edges in MLS. The three-way market that is soccer with the draw incorporated can sometimes open up some pretty good stuff here. You got New England, 57.8% at plus money to win. Colorado, 53.9% plus money. Dallas, 53% plus money. Really good edges right there on some MLS money lines. I don't really know very much about these teams. I'm happy to admit that I am not a big MLS watcher, but I'll probably look at this on Saturday and see if there's something that stands out to me. I'll, cross-reference it with some other data, maybe check out the correct scores. It's another fun thing to do, dig into the correct scores on here, look at the ones that correlate well with our money line probability. So you got New England here, 58%, over under 52% probability to go over 2.5. Top goal probability that would correlate with that, 2-1, 10%. See, then you narrow something down. Top probability is a 1-0 win, but you can use a couple different data points to try to find something like that. So there's a lot of soccer data in here. These are in the app now, the correct score grids as well, all broken down by probability. So another sweet addition to the app.
Absolutely love it. Get that 3-day free trial, Dimers Pro, only on the app. Dave, thank you so much. As always, another great week of this program. Enjoy the Masters, everybody. Good luck with your bets this weekend. We'll see you next week. Listen up, listen up.